This is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. What you're looking at is what we call the Samuel 2, the second book of Samuel. And it describes here the times and the life of our king, King David. It's very difficult for us in the world that we live in to relate to the names, the places, the kinds of wars they had, the different things they did. But we see that this is actually the book of the story of the Messiah. And it's not at all like the stories that are told by another religion that is similar to ours. It's a story of war. It's a story of struggle. It's a story of life as it really is. That life is not smooth. That life is really full of the struggle just to be able to eat, to be able to live. And that brings on war. So Eretz Yisrael, you see what's going on in Eretz Yisrael now. A large percentage, over 90% of people that come from the Middle East, Arabs mostly, we're surrounded by, are ignorant people who are not well educated. They have a religion that they cling to. That's their source of everything. They find in it what they need, but they're on the verge of hunger all the time. And we in America really don't have that. We always have enough food. Even the poorest of us are not as poor as these people, and their whole society is like that. 90% of them, maybe 97%. There is an educated class, but then those down below are hungry. And this leads to war. They had those systems amongst the Arabs to be able to actually live together in peace. They just never have had that in their close to 4,000-year history. So here we read the story of our king, and it's a little bit difficult to understand it. We'll try to understand it. But afterwards, we're going to also touch in the next psalm, because it's amazing that in the midst of all of this bloodshed and all of the difficulty that it takes to be able to rule a people and go forward, he's still, our king, finds his way to see that God is the cause of everything. So the story goes like this. In the days of David, there was once a famine for 3 years, year after year. David inquired of Hashem, and Hashem said to him, he was meditating on it, he got deeply involved, and it is said, it is for Saul, the previous king, and the house of blood, for his having killed the Gibeonites. Now, it's hard to keep track of all the different people and all the different peoples that were in Eretz Yisrael, or fighting in Eretz Yisrael, going back and forth. Well, one of them is the Gibeonites. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. The Gibeonites were not the children of Israel, they weren't Jewish, but from the remnant of the Amorites, the children of Israel, which we had learned from biblical times, from the very beginning of time, had sworn not to harm them. They are related to the Jewish people, but in a incestuous way they strayed. But Saul had tried to strike them down in his zeal for the children of Israel and Judah, but Saul tried to kill them out. David said to the Gibeonites, what can I do for you? And how can I atone for this sin, so that you will bless the heritage of Hashem? The Gibeonites replied to him, we have no claim of silver or gold against Saul, nor against the house, and we have no innocent man in Israel to put to death. He then said to them, whatever you say, I will do for you. Now, this is a difficult thing for me to listen to, but here we are talking about a time of tremendous war. They said to the king, the man who annihilated us and who schemed against us, that we be eliminated from remaining within the entire border of Israel. Let 7 men of his sons be given to us, and we will hang them for the sake of Hashem in the Gilbeah of Saul, which means the chosen one of Hashem. The king then said, I will give them to you. Now he's going back into for what was previously the royal family of King Saul. He's going to take 7 descendants in some way. The king had mercy on Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul. David, our king, was a good friend of Jonathan, because of the oath of Hashem that was between them, between David and Jonathan, son of Saul. So the king took the 2 sons of Ritzpah, daughter of Allah, whom she bore to Saul. So these are descendants of Saul. Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, daughter of Saul, whom she bore to Adriel, son of Barzillai, the Maholathite. He delivered them into the hands of the Gibeonites. What did the Gibeonites do? And just to imagine what this is like as we're going through a hostage situation here now in Gaza. And Gaza, actually, which is Philistia, the ancient Philistines, which the name Palestine came from. They're there. And what's going on? So they took these 7 and they hanged them on the mountain before Hashem. All 7 of them fell together. They were put to death during the first days of the harvest, at the beginning of the barley harvest. Now understand that why this comes in, because food, being able to eat, and Eretz Yisrael is and was a largely agricultural country. Then it says, Ritzpah, daughter of Aiah, took a sackcloth, which is a symbol of mourning, and spread it for herself over a rock, from the beginning of the harvest until water fell down on the corpses from heaven. From the harvest, I guess, takes place somewhere around the beginning of the year, that is around Rosh Hashanah time, or before that, or right after that. And the rain would come, and then winter would come, and it would start raining. Fell down on the corpses from heaven, and did not allow the birds of the heaven to descend upon them during the day, nor the beasts of the field during the night. So in other words, you protected the corpses. It's hard to understand. David was told that Ritzpah, daughter of Aiah, Saul's concubine, had done. And David went and took the bones of Saul and the bones of his son Jonathan, and from the inhabitants of Gabesh Gilead, who had stolen them from the square of Bethshan, where the Philistines had hanged them on the day that the Philistines defeated Saul at Gilboa. That's hard to follow all of this. But once again, you have the Philistines into this war. He brought up from there the bones of Saul, the bones of his son Jonathan. He brought them up. They gathered together the bones of those who were hanged, and they buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the land of Benjamin, in Zelah, in the grave of Saul's father Kish. In other words, he gave them a proper rest, those bones which had carried Saul and his family. They did all that the king commanded, and God answered the prayers of the land after that. Now he says that the Philistines, again, made war with Israel. Now we're back to Gaza again. David and his servants went down and fought with the Philistines. And David became faint. He was weakened. Ishbi-Benob, who was of the children of the giant. Now, there's our stories in other places. The Torah indicates that there were giant men. They didn't all play in the NBA. They were giant men, really giant, compared to the size of normal people. And the descendants, and that was the story of Goliath. So here we see who was fought with the Philistines. David became faint. Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the children of the giant, and whose great spear weighed 300 copper weights, telling you something. He had was a tremendously powerful man, who was girded with a new sword, declared that he would strike down David. So seeing that David, or hearing that David was faint, Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to his aid, and he struck the Philistines, killing him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "You shall not go out to war with us any more, and you shall not extinguish the lamp of Israel." It happened after this that there was another war with the Philistines in Gob. It was then that Sibbecai, the Hishmite, the Hushathite, struck down Saph, who was one of the children of the giant. Now, to follow these are the wars. Here you see over in Gaza, where they have leaders that pop up, and they make these leaders into, messengers of their hate, and they're able to build them up, and they're like giants. There was another war with the Philistines in Gob, and Elchanan, son of Jare Origim, the Bethlehemite, struck down the brother of Goliath, another giant of Gath, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's beam. There was another war in Gath. There was a man of huge dimensions also, whose fingers and toes were 6 each, 24 in number. He too was born to the giant. He ridiculed Israel, and Jonathan, the son of David's brother Shimei, struck him down. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. Now, it's hard to understand or picture the situation, except that he's picturing it. It's not our situation, but Israel's still Israel, and the land of the Philistines, which is Gaza, it's still there. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kolo, and we'll see how this appears with the shir that we're going to do in a minute on the Psalms of our King who finds himself in this situation.